What's up, guys? It is open time and it is 22.1. The workout is a 15-minute AMRAP of 3 wall walks, 12 dumbbell snatches, and 15 box jump overs. There's a few weird standards in there, so make sure that you go to the game site and you look at the scorecard so you can see the standards. The main one is, if you look down here, I got 2 different lines. Women are at I believe a 55-inch, and men are at a 60-inch. So here we have them marked with 2 different tapes. The wall is, the tape from the wall is 10 inches off the wall. Last year we did some weird measurement on the shoulders. This year there's a standard line for that, so that's the main one there. The other standard is on the box jumps. There's no like bounding or jumping off the box. You have to step off the box, which I love. Typically we don't even teach bounding or jumping off the grounds or like bounding off the other side. So this is great for all of us. It's a little more safe, and it kind of makes it to see who can just kind of sit in that monotonous pain cave and keep moving on those box jumps. So we want to start out everything by getting nice and warm. It's cold here for Texas. It's about 40 degrees, so you're gonna need some time to warm up, especially get those shoulders warmed up. I always suggest when we're doing workouts like this to start with something that's gonna get you hot and get you sweaty. I suggest like a 10-minute bike. Hopefully your gym has some bikes. Here we'll put them around the gym or maybe even inside a bit to where you can ride and get really nice and sweaty. Usually it's about 10 minutes. From there we're gonna get into some shoulder warm-ups. We're gonna do sevens. Sevens are with the bands. You'll see people do this all the time. They'll take a red band and they're gonna pull it apart in a couple different ways. So we got straight arms, we have elbows in, we have diagonal, and we have overhead. So we'll do 7 of each movement and we'll go through that twice. So that'll really get your shoulders fired up. What you're really trying to do is keep those shoulders pinned back through the whole thing. Then we're gonna start trying to loosen up the shoulder a bit. So we'll do that classic lat stretch. If you don't have a band and a pull-up bar that you could do this with, you could do it like in a doorway or something, but really we just wanna get the lats kind of warmed up and focus on really turning the hand up when we do this. That kind of gets us prepped for pushing off the ground, right? Because when we're pushing off the ground this way. Then we want to kind of move into our lower region. So just a static hamstring stretch, or if you have a band or a belt, you could do that as well. Really want to get the back side of our legs loosened up in completion, because jumping and bounding or jetting off the ground to get up on the box or hinging over to get to the dumbbell is going to be a little bit of an issue, right? And then I like to see the hips loosened up, so we could do couch stretch, we could do a hip flexor stretch, and we could do the pigeon pose. Those are all kind of get us nice and loose, get everything warm and prepped to get going for this workout. After we've got nice and stretched out and we've got nice and warm, we're gonna start going through some movement prep. So each of these are gonna be 3 different kind of complexes or 3 different circuits. Each will be 2 sets long, and there'll be some version of the movements that we're gonna do in the workout. So for the first one, I would do 2 sets of about a 10-foot bear crawl, forward and back, and do that a couple times, maybe 2 times. Forward, back, and you're good. And then I would move into some dumbbell push press. Get the dumbbell on the shoulder, push the dumbbell overhead. Over-exaggerate, shrugging up against it, and getting a good lockout. 6 on one arm, 6 on the other. And then just some simple box step up, step down on the same side. Step up, step down, do 10 of those. So we got a 10-foot bear crawl, forward and back twice. We've got 6 and 6 on the push press with the dumbbell, and then we've got the box step ups, 10 total, just stepping up, stepping down the same side. Go through that twice. Then we'll move in to the second one. The second one is going to be very similar movements, but now we're going to start with 2 wall walk starts. So we're just going to practice how we're going to get up on the wall, keeping our hands there. Because remember, the standard on the wall walk, you can't move your hands off the line until both feet are on the wall. So practicing getting the start, that's really important, and kind of get the shoulders prepped and ready to go for that. Then we're going to do 6 deadlifts on each arm. 6 on one arm, 6 on the other. So just focusing on getting down. There's really 2 ways of getting down. You can hinge or you can squat. Just do whatever feels comfortable for you for now. And then on the next one, we're gonna do 10 box step ups with a little hop off. I know we're not allowed to hop off in the workout, but I always find it's easier to hop off the box first than to start hopping on the box. So we'll do 2 sets of that, 10 of those we'll do 2 wall walk starts, we'll do 6 and 6 deadlifts, and we'll do 10 step up, hop off. So we're just hopping off on the same side of the box again. Then the last circuit's 2 sets, we're gonna do 1 or 2 wall walks. If you're not very good at wall walks, don't blow your shoulders out by doing a whole bunch in the warm up. So just do 1 or 2 if you need to practice kind of getting where you need to be or whatever. Then we're we're gonna do the actual dumbbell snatch from there. So we'll do 6 total, so that'd end up being 3 on each arm. Practice switching, touching the ground. Remember on the dumbbell snatch, both ends of the dumbbell have to touch the ground. And then lastly, we'll do 6 box jump overs. Jump on the box, step off to the side, and we'll practice kind of some technique we'll go over in a minute. Okay, so wall walks. We're gonna start with a few tips here and really some things that I think are just kind of general knowledge. First, whenever you go to start this workout, at 3, 2, 1, go, you start behind whatever line you're supposed to put your hands on and you face the wall. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people made last year. Everybody was like waiting here and then they just went down to the ground, right? Make sure you start facing the wall, okay? First thing is how to start the wall walk. So wherever you get, your feet need to be touching the wall and your hands have to start on whatever line it is. So for the guys, it's at a 60-inch line. For some of us short guys, this kind of puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage, but it's okay. So you just want as little touching there as you can possibly get on there. As long as your hands are touching, there's no standard on how much has to be touching. From there, to get started on the wall, there's really 2 ways to do it. You can go pike up, which is my preferred way. So I push my feet into the wall, I push into the wall with my hands, and I kind of do this down dog position. And then I put my feet on the wall and then I'd begin walking, right? I've seen a couple people do it this way. And I remember last year as I got really fatigued, I did it this way. I don't think it's faster, but it works as well. And that's kind of this butt back position. So you put your butt back and then you start walking up the wall, right? Now for me, that was good for me whenever I got really tired. That was something I went to just kind of automatically. But it's up to you. Play with it, figure out what works for you. But I like the down dog kind of pike up position because it's just kind of very consistent. All right, my second tip to give you is when you go to move your hands, elbows stay locked out and we're just shuffling our hands back, right? I like to leave my hands open. Sometimes I see people try to walk like this. I like to give myself just this little angle of my hands where my thumbs are kind of pointing forward, and then I just shuffle back. So we start, push up with the chest, get both feet on the wall, and then it's just a shuffle back, okay? Until we get to the desired line. Now, when we're shuffling, if your elbows start to bend, what's gonna end up happening, you're gonna start to get this big arch position. The more you arch, the harder it is to get to this line. So it's very important that we focus on keeping our rib cage down. I always tell people, try to imagine as if you have a Coke can that you're holding between your rib cage and your belly button and just pinch down on it. Okay, my next tip is just tap that final line and come right back, right? So don't spend too much time on that line. Once you get both hands on it, you're good to go. So we get into our pike position, feet on the wall, and we walk back. As soon as you get here, just tap. Once you get your other hand, both hands on, jump down to the ground, okay? Now, jumping down to the ground, last year I remember stubbed my toe so many times. Okay, there's not as many wall walks really this year, but clip your toenails, major key there. All right, last little tip here that I could give you. Oh, and if you're doing the scaled versions, it's the same thing, same start, same everything. Last little tip, and I remember I did this last year, it helped me out a lot, was when I was warming up, I figured out where my hands needed to be. Because the least amount of steps going to the wall and back, that's the best option that you can do. The more steps, more time under tension, the more tired your shoulders get. So what I did last year, I figured out where my hands needed to be, and I put little marks on the ground where I wanted to step coming in to get to the sides. So as I step back, I just look for my X's every time rather than guessing where they needed to be. And then when you come down the wall, you're just trying to come back as short as possible. I think I would go up a couple steps last year, and then on my way down, I would just kind of jump back, get my hands there. And that seemed to be the best for me. So those are my best pro tips, kind of general knowledge there, but a couple little pro tips with that. Dumbbell snatches are something that we do all the time. Most CrossFit gyms see them probably at least once a week, at least every other week. So this is something that everybody should be familiar with. I'd really just give you a couple tips to kind of help you with the longevity of this workout. Obviously the standard, both ends of the dumbbell have to touch the ground. So every time you come down, both ends have to touch. I know there's been some times in class where we'll see this kind of single head touch, both ends have to touch. The other thing that we're always talking about is this free hand cannot assist you at all, right? A lot of times when we get tired, we start like pulling and pushing off our thigh with that free hand. It can't do that. So make sure that we're not doing either of those things because they'll both be counted as no reps. when we're taking it off the ground, you really have two options, okay? You can either squat down to get to here, right? Or we can kind of hinge over. Now, obviously, the more you hinge, the more you're engaging your low back. So there's two things you can do. You can hinge and engage your low back more, and then maybe save your legs for the box jumps, because I'll show you how squatting down will affect the box jumps. Or you can squat down and just kind of be in the pain cave on the box jump. So you really just either gonna hurt here or gonna hurt here. Just, you gotta kind of pick your poison there. So for me personally, I like to hinge anyways, just so I can use my hamstrings and my glutes to help fire it up overhead. So the dumbbell snatch would come from the ground, fire it up overhead, you switch hands, tap both ends of the dumbbell to the ground, back overhead. Now, I think some efficiency tips. What happens is a lot of times people will kind of swing this dumbbell out away from them too much, right? And you think that's a lot of extra work over the span of 100 reps or so, or whatever it is that you end up doing. Okay, so keep the dumbbell as close as you can. Don't switch on the ground. Figure out how to switch in the air. Even if it's bringing it down to your shoulder and then handing it off, right? Whatever you need to do, figure it out, because stopping on the ground is really a waste of time, and it keeps you kind of super loaded on your hamstrings and low back, which is just gonna fire up everything else. My last little bit as far as saving the shoulders here is have a quick punch out, but punch with the elbow and come towards the center of your body. Right? If anybody's held anything overhead before, if we hold it here, it's a lot easier than holding it here. So if you take your snatch grip and you press, I don't know, 200 pounds overhead, you can hold it for a lot less time than you could if you did in your press grip and held it overhead. So same idea, as we come up, we want to make sure that we're punching straight overhead and not out to the side. One, most of those would end up being a no rep because it's not over the center of your body anyways, but the more wide you go, the less you can shrug up against it. So kind of pretty simple there across scaled and RX. You know, figure out how to change it to where you don't switch on the ground and either hinge or squat, but just know what you're going to be putting yourself into. Okay, box jumps, pretty general here as well. There's really not too many tricks for this. You have to jump on the box and step off. So if you jump on the box, you can't hop off the other side. You have to step down and then jump again. So kind of the consensus here is not to like jump at the box this way. It's to kind of face laterally on the box, just because there's less turning, right? So there's less steps, which means there's less time spent without it feeling more exhausted. So staying laterally. Now, on a 20-inch box, most people won't have this issue, but on a 24-inch box, what I tend to have an issue with is after I've kind of jumped on the box, right, and I go to step off, right, I'm short-legged, so when I go to step off, this back foot that's hanging on typically tends to kind of like slide out, drag off the box if I stay completely lateral on it. If you're taller than your box, so ladies probably won't have much issue because y'all get to jump on a 20-inch box, but if you're a taller dude, you may not have that issue either, so you can just stay kind of straight on laterally. So with me, I end up getting to this position because as I come across the box, right, so as I come across, I have to step off the box, but I have to leave myself at either a 45 this way or a 45 this way so I can step and then go. Now, on a 20-inch box, you have to go across 24 inches. Okay, so the key for my ladies when we're jumping is that we jump and then have a quick little step to the other side to get off the box. So you can, sometimes I'll see people come this way where they're stepping off with the front leg, or they'll step behind and step off this way, right? It's a little bit further distance. Guys, we have a shorter distance because we're jumping on the 20-inch side. So your goal is to jump as far to the other side of the box as possible. Right? If we're jumping on 24 inches, we want to jump as far to this side as possible. That way our step can just be right off the box, right? We don't want to land here and then have to do an extra step when it's only 20 inches. So not too many tips there. Just really focus on trying to get up and get turned so you don't have to do any extra steps. On the scaled version, you'll see a lot of people tip with stepping on the box, stepping over, and coming across. Me personally as a trainer, I don't like to see this, right? So when you step with the outside foot, even though it is faster to step outside foot, touch, and then come across, right? I don't like to see the inside leg, right, coming, diving in. At any point, I don't ever want to see a knee diving in. Okay, so if you're stepping on a box somewhere like this, right, this is the proper traction of our knee. We want our knee to go this direction, right? If we're stepping on a box like this, the knee's pushing in, this is not a good position for our knee. So if you can, make the conscious effort to not let your outside leg come in to be what steps on the box, because that puts your knee in a bad position. Even though it is a simple movement like box step up, constantly putting your knee in that position, that's no bueno. So take a step with the inside leg if you can, and then come around, step with the inside leg, right? Just figure out something. On all the box jumps, stay low. If the lower you stay, the more you're gonna tax your back, right? But the more you stand up, the more time you lose, right? So no matter what you're doing, stay low on the box. That way you can kind of stay moving a little bit faster. Okay, general tips on most of these, but we'll get after it. Stay moving on the box jumps, that's important. See ya. Let me know how you do.